Good evening. I'd like to call the February 9th, 2016 Longmont City Council meeting to order. This is a regular session. Could we please start with a roll call?
Yes, Mayor Coombs.
Here.
Council members Bagley. Bagley.
Oh, here. I'm here. Yeah.
Christensen. Finley. Moore.
Here.
Peck. Santos. Here. Mayor Coombs, we have a quorum.
Okay, let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anyone wishing to speak at first call, public invited to be heard, will need to add his or her name to the list outside the chambers. Only those on the list will be allowed to speak at first call, public invited to be heard. Speakers who do not place their name on the list will have the opportunity to speak during the public hearing items this evening or at final call, public invited to be heard on any item at the end of the meeting. Valerie, are there any agenda revisions?
No, Mayor, there are not.
Is there a report from the city manager?
No, Mayor.
Okay. There's no special reports, so we'll start with first call, public invited to be heard, and the first person is Georgetta Johnston.
What, here?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. My name is Georgetta Johnston. I live at 619 Kimbark Street, and we are going to court on Friday. Our landlord's taking us to court, which is not good because he served an eviction and he wanted papers. We filled out an application. He said he would drop it, and now he said he's not. So, of course, I'm really upset, because I've been coming and coming and coming and coming ever since June, and I feel like there's got to be a way and a place. This is just not good. As much as my husband is sick tonight from dialysis, or he would be here, but the volunteer that he has done, and I, for the last many, many, many years, helping out, giving, doing, loving people, I feel like this is just real upsetting. I feel like some people care if we are able to get a place that works out for us, and some don't. And this is a wonderful city. And I feel like some way, somehow, there ought to be a way to help us as well as others. I stood in line today talking with some other people, and they don't have the backbone I have to come, because we voted you in, and I feel like that some way, somehow, with the people, the landlords, different ones. We've talked to several, a real nice man, but he said that he couldn't really lower his rent, and I told him it's not like we want a handout. It's like that we just need something that we can afford. So, Lord help us. I feel like some way, somehow, you know, there's all you precious people, some way, there's got to be a way to help us. And he's wanting us to pay the court costs, and this is just real interesting. Susan said she'd go with us because, you know, it's not like we're trying to be people that take advantage or expect you to support us. We're people that have gave a lot to this town. So some way, somehow, I feel like there's got to be some answers, because this is just, it's real upsetting. And I've learned a lot coming and coming and coming, listening to everybody and listening to the different things. And I think the money that comes in, there's got to be a way to help people. And you know, it's a wonderful city. And otherwise, I feel like that people are going to get discouraged and not live here. And I feel like that we ourselves like this place and don't want to move. So I hope some way, somehow, you all think about it and some way something comes up. Thank you very much for listening to me, and Lord bless you.
Thank you. Calvin Madison.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Calvin Madison. I live at 1624 Naples Lane. and I'm here today just to check the progress on the proclamation date of Maddie's Mighty Minions Day. It's a Random Act of Kindness Day for February 16th. I just wanted to make sure that it was actually still going to happen.
Yes, it is. It's on the agenda, February 16th, so next Tuesday.
I just wanted to make sure of this because I'm having Maddie's mom come in, and I wanted to give her the right date, so she
Okay.
is coming in like the.
Yes, we can absolutely confirm it.
Okay.
It's the right date.
And I have business cards just in case anything comes up that I will give to the county clerk, just
Okay.
so she can give it to you guys. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for following up. Okay, that's all the people that signed up, and I don't see Strider, so. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the consent agenda.
Mayor, the first item on your consent agenda is item 8A, ordinance 2016-11, a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the Bowes annexation, generally located south of Nelson Road and east of Airport Road, and zoning the property PUDR residential planned unit development. A public hearing and second reading is scheduled for February 23rd. Item 8B is Resolution 2016-10, approving the revocable permit and agreement between the city and Longmont Electric Aircraft Flyers, Inc. for model electric airplane flying facilities at Union Reservoir. Item 8C is Resolution 2016, approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreements between the city and the Colorado Department of Transportation for grant funding for design and construction of Hover Street underpasses at Dry Creek and State Highway 119. Item 8D is Resolution 2016-12, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Colorado State Forest Service for grant funding for forest stewardship activities at Button Rock Preserve. Item 8E is Resolution 2016-13, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the State of Colorado Department of Local Affairs for community development block grant disaster recovery grant funding for stream rehabilitation at Button Rock Preserve. Item 8F is Resolution 2016-14, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the State of Colorado for a programmatic agreement regarding compliance with the National Historic Preservation Act. Item 8G is Resolution 2016-15, approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Longmont Housing Authority for support services at the suites. Item 8H is approving 3 capital improvement program amendments. And staff would like to pull item 8E for a short presentation.
Okay. Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Barring any others that want to be pulled, I move the consent agenda minus 8E.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. All right, that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent. All right, so I guess we'll move on to ordinances on the second reading.
And your first ordinance is Ordinance 2016-06, a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for the expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2016. We do not have a formal staff presentation on this, but Teresa is in the audience to answer questions.
Okay. Is there any questions on council on Ordinance 2016-06 before I open up the public hearing? Okay, seeing no one, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak on Ordinance 2016-06? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing on Ordinance 2016-06. Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move ordinance 2016-06.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent.
Your next item is 9B, which is the Land Development Code amendments. There are 2 ordinances. Ordinance 2016-07 is a bill for an ordinance amending chapters 1503, 1504, and 1510 of the Longmont Municipal Code regarding mining in public and planned unit development mixed-use zoning districts. And Ordinance 2015-08 is a bill for an ordinance amending Section 1507-040 of the Longmont Municipal Code on cluster lot subdivisions. And looks like Don Burchett might have a few words to say before we begin. You can have one public hearing for both ordinances.
Sure. Okay.
Mayor, members of council, Don Burchett with Planning and Development Services. The only thing I wanted to point out was that at the first reading of the ordinance, the council did direct us to make a change to the ordinance for the allowance of the mining on publicly zoned property to make that a conditional use. And I just wanted to let you know that the ordinance that you have in your packet tonight has that change. And since staff did a presentation at the last meeting, we're not planning to do another one, but we will answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Councilmember Christensen.
Councilwoman Peck and I spoke today with Joni Marsh and also Don Burchett and also Dan Kramer. And I would like to make, because of our concerns about the term mining that we felt was not as clear as it could be, and I would like to make a friendly amendment to that, to this ordinance.
Okay. What is the friendly amendment you'd like to make?
Pardon?
What is the amendment you'd like to
Friendly
make?
amendment I'd like to make. I would like to, it's just the last, there are only 2 sentences. The second sentence, I would like to change the last part. Pardon?
Which page?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 2
In your packet.
in the packet. Pardon?
Page 272 of the packet, page
268.
272
in
of
my
the
packet.
PDF, 268 of the packet.
Yes.
Hold on 1 second.
I know, so that's what everything else says. So it's whatever it is in yours, because they're not always the same. It's blue. Okay. Okay.
I don't know about these guys, but I'm
I'm there now.
Okay.
You guys get
And
there so
this-
fast. Okay.
Okay,
We're
this
sharing.
is, all right, that's good. We like to share. So this is because I'm an editor, so I just like clarity. I like the serial comma. I like the use of and or properly. Anyway, so after geothermal resources, I would like to change it to read and instead of strike or natural and insert and, put a comma after oil, move that natural to before gas, and then put a period after gas. So the actual second sentence would read, the term mining does not include mining for coal, oil shale, surface or subsurface water, comma, geothermal resources, comma, and oil, comma, or natural gas, period.
I guess
That just clarifies it.
all right. And you second it? All right.
That's the first edit, correct?
Yeah. Is there another edit?
That's it,
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
yeah. Just to change the last sentence to be a little bit more clear.
Okay. Do you have a comment there, Eugene?
No comment, Mayor. I was thinking perhaps you could have a public hearing before council
Yes,
action
right.
on the
Okay.
ordinances.
Thank you. All right. I think before we vote,
Good, yeah.
yeah. Councilmember Christensen, okay. Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So you don't want with other chemicals recovered therewith?
No, we talked to Dan about why.
And the other question is, why not natural oil and natural gas? Why just oil?
Is the term natural gas ever used? I mean, natural oil?
Yeah.
Natural oil refers to.
It could be both. We just had never heard of the term natural oil, and Dan Kramer agreed with us that it didn't really, but natural gas was a term that was well used.
And why not the chemicals like fracking and that kind of stuff?
Because we don't want to open up mining as a way to frack within the city using this ordinance. This ordinance is basically for sand and gravel mining. If we open it up for mining with this sentence in there, it could be used against us, we felt. And Dan agreed with us.
Okay. Before we vote on this ordinance, I think I should have a public hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Please. Oh,
Turn
sorry.
off. Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Before any amendment can be done, I believe what the city attorney is suggesting, we have the public hearing first, and then
Okay.
we can go and discuss this a little bit more.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open up the public hearing on ordinance 2016-07 and 2016-08. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak on either one of these ordinances? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing on 2607 and 2608. Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I get the that change, but wouldn't oil shell cover hydraulic fracturing? And I'm looking to the city attorney. And since there is a ban currently in place, wouldn't that supersede this? Just for some clarity.
Mayor and Council, Eugene May, City Attorney. I'll answer the second question first. Yes, I think that the ban would overlay on top of this, but should the ban not be in effect anymore, the language I think is important. We did take this language out of state statute. Originally, we had thought that having identical language of the state statute would help with the interpretation. I do agree that the state statute is not crafted as clearly as it could be. I do think oil shale refers more to the rock formation than the product, the hydrocarbon product that comes out.
Thank you.
Councilmember Peck.
Well, and if you look at the second sentence, it starts, the term mining does not include mining for these things. So we just thought that last sentence was a bit redundant and confusing.
Councilmember Christensen.
Okay, we'd hope to avoid discussions of commas and ands and ors, but, you know, because it sort of ties up public time. But anyway, so the reason we sort of eliminated, Dan actually eliminated together with other chemicals recovered, because the use of that term, that dangling participle together, confuses, is together oil and gas together, or is it together with other chemicals recovered? It just was confusing, so Dan just eliminated it.
You must have been an English major.
That's just, right.
Okay, we've got a motion. It's been seconded. Joan did.
The amendment.
Yeah, a motion, an amended motion. Let's vote on the amended motion. Okay, that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent. So now we need to vote on Amendment 08.
Mayor.
Okay, all right.
Mayor Coombs.
Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move ordinance 2016-07.
Okay, let's vote on that. All right, that passes 6-0.
I got you.
Okay, any further discussion on ordinance 2015-08? All right, Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move ordinance 2016-08. 2015.
Yeah.
2016.
It should be 2016. It says 2015, but yeah. Okay, let's vote on ordinance 2016-08. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent.
Mayor Coombs, your next item is ordinance 2016-10, a bill for an ordinance amending Title 11, Chapter 1104 of the Longmont Municipal Code regarding bicycle equipment. And we do not have a formal staff presentation on this, but there should be someone in the audience. Sergeant Buckholz is here to answer questions if you have it.
Okay. Councilmember Christensen.
I do have a question about, it refers to different ways that now people can retrieve this was, as it says here, this was created in order to register bikes so they could be found, and that was the main purpose of this. And it refers to better ways to retrieve stolen bikes now. So I'd like to know what those are, just for public information.
Sure. Mayor, City Council, Jesse Buckholz with the Police Department, and I'm a sergeant there. So the other options for the public are two things. One being the Operation ID, which we have already, and that is where someone obtains the Operation ID pamphlet and writes down all of their serial numbers to all their valuables in their house and maintains that document themselves. If anything were to be stolen, then they can then report it to us and use that information, and we would go off of that information. The other option that we're going to be providing is nationalregistry.com, and that is where they can register their bikes. Let me make sure that's the one. nationalbikeregistry.com is the correct one. And that's where someone can register their bike online and get a sticker in the mail. And of course they can move from here to wherever and it'll still be registered. Mm-hmm. So that will be the other option. It's free for law enforcement to get in to and verify that this bike belongs to this person or whatnot.
Thank you. That sounds like a really good idea. Now we can just get everybody, including me, to do that.
Right, right.
Well, I now have 7 bikes, so I'm excited about this change.
Right.
All right, I'm going to open up the public hearing on ordinance 2016-10. Is there anything public you'd like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-10. So can I have someone make a motion? Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coops. I move ordinance 2016-10.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent. Okay, now we have to deal with the items that was removed from the consent
No, we
agenda.
have one other item. We have one other public hearing.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
We have the presentation of funding recommendations for 2016 Community Development Block Grant, Home
Right.
Program, and Affordable Housing Funding, and public hearing for citizen input regarding proposed funding. And Kathy Fedler is here to make this presentation.
Yes, it's Peyton Manning here. Nice jersey. I just couldn't give it up yet. One more day. So I'm here tonight to talk about the proposed funding recommendations for the 2016 CDBG home and affordable housing funding. And as you mentioned, to have the public hearing on this same item, which is a requirement of the 2 federal programs. If you remember, earlier in 2015, actually, June of 2015, Council approved the Housing Advisory Board's recommendation that all CDBG funding, as well as the home and the affordable housing funding, be used for affordable housing programs and projects, and that the city should proactively solicit applications for projects that would create new or preserve existing rental housing that without assistance would convert to market rate housing. So this is a change from what we had been doing in the past, where we had been using some of the CDBG funds for other uses. But because of the issues that we're facing with affordable housing, it was decided we should be a little more proactive this year with our funding options. So in July, we did do a funding round after setting aside what we needed for our ongoing programs, like the housing rehab program and the housing counseling program. We solicited applications from developers, and The applications were reviewed by the Affordable Housing Technical Review Group and the Housing Advisory Board, and recommendations were made to fund 2 projects by reprogramming 2015 CDBG funds. So that program amendment was considered and approved by Council at the December 21st, 2015 meeting, but because there was still 2016 funding available, the city went out again and requested proposals for housing projects in November. Applications came in yet that month. The applications were reviewed by both the TRG and the Housing Advisory Board at a joint meeting on January 8th. And your packet includes the recommendations, which I'll go through here in just a minute. What is being recommended will create 78 new affordable rental housing units and preserve 70 affordable rental units. If you remember, Council kind of set a goal of 50 to 100 new rental units to be created each year. So we are right in that funding range if everything moves forward. And so let me go through what is being recommended. So 3 projects were received, and I will say also, I remind you that we did do a different solicitation process, I guess, this year. Not only did we put it in the newspaper, an ad, it was on our website as well, but then I also sent out emails to all the developers I knew of or had ever had contact with through our CDBG DR program. Joni gave me a list of developers that had been inquiring about projects in the city, so we sent out emails to over 36 different private sector and public sector developers that had expressed interest in doing something in Longmont. So the 3 that we got back, I'm going to go through. So the first one is the Longmont Housing Authority for the Suites Permanent Supportive Housing Development. It's a renovation, refinance, and new unit creation. Total project cost is over $10 million. They're requesting $650,000 and already have a commitment of $375,000 from that 2015 funding that I had mentioned that you guys approved in December. 11 new units will be created by converting 2-bedroom units at the suites, cutting them in half. Well, not cutting them in half, but they're now in 2 separate units because that used to be a hotel. So, you have adjoining bedrooms and that. So it'll be made into a 1-bedroom and then a studio apartment instead of a 2-bedroom unit. So there'll be 11 new units created. So that's all that we counted towards the new unit creation. That will bring the total to 81 units at the suites apartments. 13 are going to be maintained as affordable for 30% income folks, and 68 are for 50% and below, which is our requirement internally to the city. It totally rehabilitates the property, so it will ensure the systems are set for another 15 to 20 years without any substantial renovations needed. And then it also refinances the property into a lower debt structure with an interest rate and payments that are much more sustainable over the long term. If you remember, the suites, again, is a supportive housing community that serves at-risk, hard-to-house populations with wraparound services. So services, a lot of them are provided on site, including mental health services, AA meetings, all different kinds of things are brought on site for the population there. The Housing Advisory Board's recommendation is to provide $500,000 of affordable housing funds as a deferred loan, 0% interest rate, with repayment at the end of 20 years, full repayment at the end of 20 years. Added in with the $375,000 in the CDBG grant funds, so that's an actual grant, that provides the project with over $875,000 in grant or soft debt funding. This gives them over 77% of their request at a per unit investment of $10,800 and leverages $10.91 for each dollar of city investment. And this particular project, staff had an additional recommendation. Sometimes we do this, not very often, but sometimes we do add this. So we feel that it would be helpful to the long-term viability of the project to fully fund the request at the $650,000 amount. since it is in the form of a loan. And it's in the form of a loan because it's from the Affordable Housing Fund. This particular project couldn't be funded with home funds because we had already put home funds in, and there's a period of affordability that attaches to it. And the rules say you can't put additional home funds in until that period of affordability ends. So that avenue was blocked for us. And then we didn't have any CDBG funds beyond the $375,000 we had already invested, which is the other place we can get grant funds. So staff is recommending adding $150,000 to this loan from the Affordable Housing Fund, which would give them a total of $1,025,000 in grant or soft debt funding with that CDBG funds. This gives a per unit investment of $12,600 per unit and $10.17 for each $1 of city investment. Added caveat or information on this particular item is council could choose to make the $500,000 or the $650,000 if the staff recommendation is approved from the Affordable Housing Fund a grant with no repayment required. However, this would either use up most of the current cash in the Affordable Housing Fund, which is at about $731,000 is the cash that's in that account right now, or it would use the entire 2016 city contribution to the fund. Actually, a little bit more than that because I think we got $525,000 that was contributed in 2016 to the fund from general fund and the advisory board or the human service agency funds. While there's compelling reasons to do this, the population that's being served, the number of units, the very low income, the Housing Advisory Board and staff felt that by deferring the repayment for 20 years, this gives the Housing Authority several options. They can continue to seek out grant funding to take out and replace the affordable housing funds because there's no prepayment penalty for that, that loan. It will get the project stabilized with a new refinance and then perhaps be able to start repaying the loan sooner depending when they get that stabilized, or later on they could renegotiate the loan repayment closer to that due date when other funding might be more plentiful, or it may be in the community's best interest to use the property differently. So it buys them some time to get things stabilized, figure things out, and then they can always come in with some other options if needed. I did try this back to the goals that we have set, housing goals. So this particular project meets 3 of the Boulder-Broomfield Regional Consolidated Plan goals, increasing the amount of affordable housing, preserving existing housing, and continuing the work of eliminating homelessness through the 10-year plan. And then it meets 2 of the housing and community investment, so the city goals, which are maintain and produce additional affordable rental housing for people below 50% of the AMI, and working with our community partners to provide shelter, housing, and services to homeless individuals and families. Again, 11 new units would be created and 70 affordable units preserved. The second project is with the Longmont Housing Development Corporation for new construction of the Fall River Senior Apartments. This is would be a sister project to the Spring Creek Senior Project that's under development right now in Prairie Village neighborhood at 21st and Alpine, basically. It's about $15.6 million project. They requested $750,000 in funds. It would create 60 new units of affordable senior housing. All would be affordable, 30 units would be affordable at 30%, area median income and below, and 30 units between 31 and 50%, so everyone below our required rental AMI. The land's already owned and approved for this type of housing. Again, it'll be next to the Spring Creek apartment, so it is a complementary project. They would also be soliciting state tax credits and CDBG DR funding from the state, as well as other funding sources, and 15 housing vouchers would be attached to the property. The recommendation of the Housing Advisory Board is to provide $606,333 approximately, depending on exactly how much home funding we get, as a grant to the property, to the project. This gives the project 81% of their request, a per unit investment of $13,400. at the net of 45 units. We did reduce the new units to be created by the number of vouchers that would be attached, because those vouchers are already being used in the community. They're just being transferred into this property, so it's not a net gain of units. And it leverages $24.73 for every $1 of city investment. This project meets the regional goal of increasing the amount of affordable housing and Longmont's goal of maintaining or producing additional affordable rental housing for 50% of AMI and below. So total units created would be 60, net new units would be 45, which is what we counted in the total of new units to be created. The third project considered and being recommended for funding is Senior Housing Options is the applicant. It's new construction of senior rental housing also at their Cinnamon Park facility. It's a $6.1 million project. They're requesting $400,000. 24 new units would be created, 22 of which would be affordable. The 22 units would be affordable between 31% and 50% of the area median income. It would become a full force, what do you want to call it, continuum of care kind of a facility out there at Cinnamon Park, with the new units of independent senior housing, which is what this project is. It would complement the assisted living complex, which is their other units that are out there, again, at Mountain View and Kaufman. There would be 19 studio apartments and 3 one-bedroom apartments that would be affordable and fully ADA accessible. The 2 market units would be 1 studio and one bedroom. They do have access out at that property because of the assisted living facility to optional meal and housekeeping services that they could purchase at additional cost for that. The Housing Advisory Board recommendation is to provide $220,000 of home funds as a grant and $150,000 of affordable housing funds as a 2% interest rate 10-year repayment loan. The reason for the higher interest rate and shorter term on this property or project than what was recommended at the Suites is because this project will be serving fewer and higher income residents than that project, and it will not necessarily stay as a community asset beyond the period of affordability where we know the Suites will be permanently affordable. The recommendation, if approved, gives the project 92% of their request at a per unit investment of $16,800 per unit and leverages $16.69 for each $1 of city investment. It meets the same 2 regional consolidated plan goals and city goal as the other 2, with 22 new units created. So we're looking at a total funding recommendation for these projects, not for everything, but these new unit creation or new affordable housing projects of about $1.4 million unless you approve the staff recommendation of the additional funding for the suites. Other funds leveraged are $11.8 million, which is about a leverage ratio of $8 to every $1 of city investment. It's a per unit subsidy, affordable housing unit per subsidy of $19,000 by the city, with a total estimated cost per unit of $143,176. It does again create 78 new units once we take out the 15 and just count the 11 at the suites of new units to be created. If you have any questions about that, I'll go ahead and answer those now. Or you can have the public hearing, or I can go through some of the other recommendations.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I guess my question is for you and also for anybody in the audience who is interested in the decision of this. My question is, given that the money is all going to go to some type of affordable housing project, right? So it's not about saving money or putting it somewhere else. It's all going towards affordable housing. My question is, if we go ahead and actually, my question is simply this. I guess in my mind, we want to give as much money to every project or good project till it reaches a point where it becomes viable, and then stop giving additional dollars and save it for the next one. And so my question is, if we don't do the 150, is it still going to be built? keeping in mind that that 150 will go towards the next one. Does that make sense?
So if you're talking particularly about the suites, the project already is built.
Right. So my question is,
It maintains the affordability.
yeah, but my question is that is the 150,000 the best use of those dollars, or do we want to maintain affordability or build another affordable housing complex somewhere else? I'm not trying to be stingy. My question is just, is this the best use of those dollars? And I'm not arguing. It's a question to understand.
So my reply would be, or answer, is that if we were able to grant the $500,000, we probably staff would not be making the recommendation to add the 150. It's the difference between making it as a loan, which is because it's from the Affordable Housing Fund, versus what they really need. So when it goes in as a loan and there's a repayment attached to it, it does benefit them to have a little bit more money as a loan because it blends down what they would otherwise have to borrow.
Right, but my question is, so you use the word viability. Mm-hmm. So if it's already built, and I guess what I'm saying is, what define viability then if we don't do the 150? What would happen? Would rents increase at the suites, and it would make it less affordable? What would happen?
More than likely, if they would have to go out and borrow money at a higher interest rate, if they could not find other grant funding, which is, there's not much out there.
Okay, so the recommendation is loan it all to them, give them $150,000 extra in loan money, and then they'll pay it back when they can. Worst case scenario, 20 years, and as soon as they find the money, we use it as something else. Am I getting it?
That's what we're being recommended.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Councilmember Peck.
Kathy, thank you for this presentation. I have two questions. Can you explain once again for me, because I didn't quite get it the first time, on the Fall River Apartments, what is that voucher? You said there were 15 vouchers. Can you explain that again?
Mm-hmm. So Housing Authority, and Michael might be able to explain it better, he's here, but the Housing Authority can choose to attach a Section 8 voucher to a specific unit. Then it becomes, because it's attached then, whoever moves in only pays 30% of their income for the rent, and the voucher pays the balance up to the fair market rent. But it stays with that unit as opposed to giving it to a person who then can go and get a unit out in the open market.
Okay.
They still only pay 30% of their income for the rent, and the voucher pays the rest, but that's to somebody out in the community. When you take it, so if somebody turns in a voucher, then they're going to take that voucher and attach it to the unit. That helps the economic viability of the property, because now they're getting the difference between what the tenant can pay and what the fair market rent can pay attached to that property. But because it was already out in the community and it's coming to this property, we didn't feel it was really creating a new unit. The funding was already there. It's actually taking one away from the community and attaching it to the property. It's still available, but it's not a new unit.
Okay, that makes sense. My other question is that I'm really excited about all the senior housing. However, are there any projects in the pipeline for single-family units?
So with our CDBG-DR funding that was approved last spring, spring of 2015, we're going to start seeing construction coming up probably this spring. There's 3 projects that were approved for that: Centennial Park, Chrisman, and Copper Peak. They have some affordable units within them, but they're all either single or family units. So 1, 2s, and 3 bedrooms, and maybe a few 4s in the Centennial Park. So yes, some are going to be coming online, starting construction this spring or summer, and occupancy probably next spring.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. You know, I'd really like to see this money for the suites be a grant. However, I understand the thought of having a revolving loan fund. The fact of the matter is, though, we're taking that money out permanently, well, effectively for 20 years. So the money isn't there to revolve around. And I think that's what Mayor Pro Tem Bagley was getting to. Question for the city manager. Is there a way to help them pay down this loan in a faster period of time so the money comes back into the Affordable Housing Fund?
So if council wanted to, there's probably a lot of different ways to hit that target point. So if council wanted to keep the integrity of the loan in place, but look at a different funding source when we go through our budget process, we could allocate theoretically $50,000 a year over 12 years, and that pays that back. What it would do is it would be the suites paying that back, it would be the city paying back the loan for them, but what you would do is inject those dollars back into the Affordable Housing Fund at potentially a faster clip. Council could also theoretically look at the money that they set aside in the budget process and decide, do we want to put a portion of that to look at some type of repayment mechanism to do that. So based on the policy direction of the council, there's different options that we can look at to essentially accomplish what your question is and how this occurs. But what it would have to be is other funding sources making the Affordable Housing Fund whole.
Well, this property effectively needs to be debt-free in order to continue to support that population. And it's, I'd like to explore those options some more. How do we get this debt off the back of the Housing Authority faster and replenish the Affordable Housing Fund and make sure that that source of funding is reasonably reliable moving forward, so that at the worst case, maybe we can get the payments down at 15 years or 20 years. You know, maybe we take it all the way out to 20 years, but at the same time, I don't know. Are there any other properties in Boulder County that provide this service? Kathy?
There's the Lee Hill project, which is a permanent supportive housing project in Boulder. I know there's some things in the works to try and get some more permanent supportive housing. Is there anything else, Joni, that you can think of?
Do you have a count on the number of units?
Lee Hill is like 31, so we're like double.
So we're like carrying most of the load for all the supportive housing, at least a significant portion of it.
Well, there's probably some smaller ones out there that are being done in different ways, or
right,
being supported with vouchers or something like that. But
well, I think we should be looking at a way to make this fund whole again, as well as bringing down the debt service on that particular property. And at the same time, that is a community asset. It belongs to the citizens of Longmont through the Housing Authority. So it's investing in our own real estate. So it's not like the other project it's a grant. It's 40 years out. It'll be revert back to market rate potentially. So this is a longer term investment in my mind. So can we look at, I'd like to send this back to city manager and ask him to come up with a scheme.
Councilmember Santos.
I don't know about scheme, but I get what you're saying, Councilmember Moore. What interest rate would it? What is it?
2%.
2%.
which I'm sorry.
If it was a loan, it would be at 2% interest.
For what they would be able to get,
the 150.
they're probably looking at.
No. I'm talking to repay the affordable housing. If we do the additional $150,000.
Oh, I would
says 2%.
recommend that it be deferred the same term as the 500,000. So it'd just be 650 at 0% for 20 years.
Yeah, I have no problem with the city manager looking at other options too. I don't know if there was a mechanism for the housing authority to pay back X by a certain date, and then I don't want to tie up future council's hands, but perhaps that would, if there was an amount and a date of trying to get that fund whole before the 20 years, then perhaps we could find within council at that time could find money within its budget to replenish that other fund. But I don't want to hold this up. So we would approve this. I know we still have a public hearing to go. We would approve this, and then that funding mechanism and loan mechanism would be continued to work out. Would that need to come back to us for approval?
So if there were changes to the loan term that you approve, what we usually do is go by the TRG again and the HHSAB again, and then here again. So it gets a thorough review and vetting by all parties. That's our normal thing. And that's part of the reason why we recommended a 20-year, because it buys some time. It allows them to get their other financing in place and get the property stabilized and see what they can or can't do. They may be able to start making small payments. They may be able to find some grant sources out there that they could repay it. It just allows them some time. If there's something that they could come back with that, yeah, we could start making payments, we can just restructure it.
Well, I have no problem how it's structured. I think what the general consensus of council, their concern is that if it's possible to replenish the affordable housing fund back within an earlier time, and I'm looking at Michael. Michael, you can't retire anytime soon, so with at least within 20 years, to make that happen, and then again, a future council can make a decision one way or another about replenishing any outstanding money to the affordable housing fund.
I think first off, the city and staff and Kathy has done a great job. And I like this recommendation, give them some breathing room to approve the 2016 recommendation as showing in attachment 1. I mean, anytime you're leveraging $1 to $16, it's a good thing for the city. With the modification, allocating the $150,000 additional in affordable housing to make the project more sustainable and give us more options to work with in the future. And obviously, if other funds become available or other grants, we can always pay down a loan. But I think we should move ahead with the recommendation. In fact, I'm going to make a motion that we do. I'm going to open up the public hearing. At this point, is there anybody from the public? I know there's someone. Diane, would you like to come down?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Diane Groff. I serve on the Technical Review Group for Housing and Human Services, Affordable Housing, and I can't tell you how wonderful it is to hear the comments tonight and the support, the commitment. I remember when Michael Reese came forward with the idea of purchasing the suites building, and I was on TRG then and thinking, okay, this is going to be a path that we are going to go down together, and that this is a commitment. And so your comments tonight reflect that, and serving a very vulnerable population in our community, and it is a community resource. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to come down and speak?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Michael Reese. I'm the director of the Longmont Housing Authority. I'd just like to say thank you for even trying to help out on the fly to make it even better. Appreciate it. It's hard to negotiate loan terms in council meetings. So we appreciate moving forward with the proposal. The extra $150,000 will help us leverage additional dollars. We got quite a few people. They still need to say yes from the state and CHAFA, but we're on our way to create a pretty stable environment down there in terms of fiscally responsible building. And Councilmember Moore is correct. Driving down the debt is very important over the long term. This type of building really serves very, very low-income folks that are fairly high need, very vulnerable, as Diane mentioned. We're glad we can do it. Glad the community has it. But we also know the right path is to make it fiscally viable for the long term. But we can work with the terms that have been presented and approved. So thanks, Kathy, as well. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Bagley.
Anyone else from the public? Mayor Coombs, thank you. I think I definitely see where Councilmember Moore's coming from. However, I think that I'm going to go ahead and support the recommendation as is, only because we can't make it too easy for Michael. He's got to be out there knocking doors, selling Girl Scout cookies, whatever he needs to do to pay back loans. But I think you resolved my concerns. So I'm gonna, when I hear the motion, I'm gonna go ahead and make it.
Let's wait for a second, because is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this ordinance? Okay, I'm going to now close the public hearing. Okay.
Good job, Mayor. Good job. I would move that we actually adopt the staff recommendation.
Number 2?
Yep.
Number 2, yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, or let's vote? All right, that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent.
I'd just really like to thank the Housing Advisory Board and the Technical Review Group, because it was a double process this year. They did extra work and really, really thoughtful reviews, comments, spent a lot of time on this. For the first year, we tried them meeting jointly to hear the presentations, which I think worked really well. So kudos to that both of those groups that volunteer their time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Nothing like working together as a team, huh?
Yep. Mayor Coombs, your next item is the one removed from consent agenda, which is Resolution 2016-13, and Ken Hewson will make a presentation on this.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Ken Hewson, Water Resources Manager with Public Works Natural Resources Department. And we're actually pleased to be able to bring this item before you today. Wanted to just give a little bit of brief history on it and kind of explain what it is. The state of Colorado received a large block of money for CDBG disaster relief grants and have been kind of parceling that up over the last year. And early on, last January, they let some grants out for capacity building, and Longmont received a couple of those to help us move our flood recovery forward. Then in March of last spring, they issued a block of $300,000 per watershed for what they called demonstration resiliency projects. The idea was they wanted to get some projects that would actually be on-the-ground flood recovery projects that would demonstrate resiliency and restoring the watershed back to proper health. A number of applications were put in, and the City of Longmont, as well as Boulder County, both applied for grants in addition to other grants that were applied for. Two of the grants were for restoration of the aquatic habitat in the Button Rock Preserve area on the North St. Vrain Creek. So we were pleased that both the City of Longmont and Boulder County each received a grant award of $150,000, which took up the whole 300. And so there were only two grants that were awarded under that resiliency demonstration project. Boulder County contracted separately for their $150,000, as is Longmont now, bringing this contract forward for our half of the project. But we're actually doing the project together. Boulder County, you can't start the project till you get your contract from the state. we were notified clear back last summer, but until the contract's done, you can't actually start. Boulder County's contract came out of the state a little sooner, so theirs is complete. So we have initiated the design for about half of the project. Essentially right now what we're looking at is doing aquatic rehabilitation from Longmont Reservoir downstream past the parking lot where people park to go into the preserve area, and then on downstream from there to the edge of the Button Rock Preserve area. So that project has been designed, bid out, just finalizing some of the permitting and other issues, and that project will actually start hopefully by about the 1st of March. Actually got to get it in before spring runoff, so we're kind of fighting time and Mother Nature there. But that project will be going quickly. And then the second half of the project is to do aquatic stream rehabilitation above Longmont Reservoir, between Longmont Reservoir and Button Rock Dam. There's a lot of excitement in the community for that project. The local Trout Unlimited chapter raised around $30,000 to also put money into the project. So there's just a really special area that not only Longmont but the greater St. Vrain Valley is interested in. This is actually, we were at a meeting with county commissioners not too long ago, and they mentioned this was their first CDBG project to go forward. I mean, they've done a lot of FEMA flood recovery, but this is their first one. So it's nice to be able to work in conjunction, so we'd like to acknowledge the county for working with us. Between both phases, we should get the North St. Vrain Creek, primarily the aquatic environment rehabilitated. Our project will be designed this summer and actually bid out and constructed next fall when the stream comes back down. You got to do the work in the stream when it's low, so we'll be doing the second half next fall. But between the two projects, we should really restore that area. So we have before you tonight just the standard CDBG contract for the $150,000 for Longmont, and there is no requirement for a match, so it's a full grant to do that work. And so we're excited to be able to move forward and continue to improve the Button Rock Preserve area. Be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. I have a question for a layperson. How do you rehabilitate a stream? Is it just moving boulders around in the right place to get the right flow, and maybe putting river willows or the right aquatic plants around, or what do you do to explain this?
Yes, Mayor. All of the above. There's really two phases. There are kind of two parts of it. Okay. One is where you're actually in the stream itself. After the flood, if you can imagine, the area up there was just scoured down to bedrock from canyon wall to canyon wall. The first thing we had to happen was to get in and get the road rebuilt so we had access to the area. So we did that, but that left kind of half the canyon, the stream side of the canyon, just kind of a flat-bottomed creek with no structure at all. A creek naturally wants to have riffles and pools and a lot of structure to it. And so really it's creating a small, what we call a thalweg, or a small flow channel within the broader floodplain channel, so that you keep the flow narrowed a little bit, so you have good flow. Recreating a few of the pools, basically doing what Mother Nature would probably do in about 20 to 50 years. And we want to get a little healthier, a little faster. So that's half the work. Okay. And then the other half of the work is actually right at the edge, the interface, what I call the riparian zone. And that's there are places where the stream bed bank wasn't completely destroyed, but it's unstable. So it's stabilizing the creek bed. It's planting riparian vegetation, willows, birches and alders, those type of naturally occurring vegetation, so that it helps kind of protect the bank and also shade the water a little bit. So it's really restoring what nature would really take about 20 to 50 years to do, and trying to do a little bit quicker.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from council? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'll move Resolution 2016-13.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Let's vote. Well, I've never seen council not approve a grant that doesn't have any matching requirements. All right. I guess it's time for We don't have a general business section tonight, so it's final call, public invited to be heard. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to come speak now? Yes, come forward and state your name, address. Okay.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone. My name is Judy Lubau, and I'm the RTD director for our district. And I can come tonight because I was in Longmont for the League of Women Voters Transportation Forum. And you guys may not know, but the RTD board meetings are Tuesday night, and your meetings are Tuesday night, so it's a real conflict to try to come here. But nonetheless, I'm able to come tonight, and I'm quite happy about that. At the forum, I was supporting the construction of the Northwest Rail to Longmont and urging citizens to also support it. I just handed out to you a new map from the Denver Union Station Project Authority. Did you guys get it? I guess you didn't. Oh, well. Anyway, it's an incredibly impressive map, and it shows the construction that has been occurring around the refurbished Denver Union Station. What it doesn't say on it, but what we've been told, is that the construction's value is $2 billion. So just think of the prosperity that such construction brings, and I would love to see Longmont get at least a part of that. Our part, actually. I think people should be aware that there are new financial projections for RTD that estimate a large cash flow surplus starting in the late 2020s and continuing through 2040. Now, these are only projections, of course, but if that materializes, money would exist at that time to pay for our rail, if there were the political will to use it. And that's where you guys come in. I really urge you to impress upon RTD as city council people and as the Longmont City Council your expectation that the Northwest Rail will be delivered as promised in the Northwest, in the Fast Tracks vote. It helps. It really helps. And what I would urge is that since you guys have a conflict with our meetings, that you send staff as volunteers to present your views. And different municipalities do that all the time. So I would urge you to do that and also send in writing the position of the Longmont City Council that you want to see this rail. It really helps, and it might help more even than an audit because public opinion is very important. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy. Councilmember Santos?
I'll wait in case there's any other public involvement.
Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to speak? All right, seeing no one, I'll close public invited to be heard. Councilmember Santos?
Okay, so we're in council comments. It's nice to see our representative from RTD here. I'll do you one better. I would like to have, and it's been quite a while since we had the RTD general manager, the chair, and our RTD representative at a council meeting. Since we have a conflict, we can have a special meeting. We've done it before because I remember because one of the last ones, my daughter was born that night. And I would love to hear an explanation as to why it's taken maybe 2020 to 2040 for us to get our commuter rail here. Candidates have run on bring our rail to Longmont and haven't really done a whole lot for us. In fact, haven't had that discussion with the Longmont City Council. We sent a letter several years ago stating the City Council's unified position to RTD about what we expect and how we expect it to be done to get commuter rail to Longmont. I don't think that letter, we can resend the letter with new names and new council members. However, I'm pretty sure that the 7 members of council would like to see commuter rail to Longmont before 2020. I think it's incumbent on RTD to show us where our money has gone and why hasn't that money been in the promise of the vote been delivered to the city of Longmont, and all those other cities along the northwest corridor. I sat on the NAM study for a few months prior to Councilmember Witt leaving. I believe the NAM study should be relooked at as far as coming up I-25. RTDs has an image problem. It doesn't deliver, and it doesn't deliver to Longmont, whether it's regional or local routes. And I would, again, love to have, we had a great discussion with the general manager, Dave Genova, here. We showed him around, showed him where the station potentially could be. And what I told him is, like, you know, I can drag you through the mud of the past. I'm not trying to get to the past. I'm trying to bring, and I would love to see commuter rail come to Longmont before my daughter turns 25 or 45, for crying out loud. I've heard so many different dates of 2040, 2050, 2060, 2070. I'll be 100 years old. It's ridiculous. Where's our money? And if an audit is needed, I will press for an audit, either this session of the General Assembly by myself, or I'll get a council vote to do that, or I will go down there in 2017 and lobby whoever I need to. But RTD has been irresponsible with the city of Longmont, and we have not got the representation on the board that we had hoped. And I have talked to the former chair. I don't know if Chuck Sisk is the chair anymore, but it's apparent that those municipalities who have rail are not looking out for the best interest in Longmont. And if we have to do it on our own with the other communities along this corridor, either I'll do it as a city council member or do it as an individual.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Yesterday at the plaza, there was an incredible group of high school students, part of the Future Business Leaders of America group. I sat as a judge on one of the panels of impromptu speaking, and I'll tell you, it was an amazing experience. These young people they're looking into the future. They're not just hanging out at the mall, right? They're out there working their butts off, trying to get things done and trying to make a difference. And I just want to congratulate everybody that participated and look forward to the next opportunity next year.
Councilmember Peck.
I would like to say that I think we are getting the representation from our director, Judy Lubau, on the RTD board. She's been working tirelessly behind the scenes to lobby different directors for our rail. The biggest problem is that we have only one person on that board who is lobbying for us, and that is Judy Lubau. That's why she's here saying she needs help. She needs us to have her back. She's been lobbying really hard for 2 years. So I want to thank you for that, Judy. Thanks for stepping up, and we will definitely support you.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I have nothing to say, but I would like to do Bonnie's Business of the Week. And that's Village Inn has opened, and they got phenomenal pie and French toast. I'm not as good as Bonnie, but I just figured that the spirit, nevertheless, needed to be respected in her absence.
Yeah.
Village Inn. And IHOP. IHOP's good, too.
I don't know if many of you from council had an opportunity, but there was a really good presentation about economic development that was given at the museum. It talked about how to look at economic development as a per unit, per acre, per space. And, the bottom takeaway is these transportation projects where you get high volume and high density downtown is what drives cities' life. And that's why I think the Turkey redevelopment project is such a great project. And that project at the Roosevelt Park Apartments, those are great projects for city where you get the density and you get people in higher density living. And, you don't have so much city infrastructure to serve a lot more people when your whole city's all spread out and you've got to have so many fire hydrants. It was just a real interesting and insightful presentation. So I would like to say that it was. I hope you all get a chance to see that presentation again sometime. I guess I just want to say congratulations to the Broncos. Boy, they were just rocked. They really did. They just crushed our opponent. But yeah, what a great day Sunday. So, Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mayor. We should probably not refer to this turkey redevelopment, but but we know what we're talking about. And I agree. I think there are many. I went to the State Historical Preservation Conference this week because I am now on the Historical Preservation Board and realized how little I know. So I thought I would inform myself. And another, we had a wonderful presentation, speaking of economic development there, from the lady who started Local First Arizona. And she was talking about our heritage and how historical preservation is very, very important to the town's identity and to our own local economic development. And I thought it was a very, these are things, historical preservation and transportation, we don't think of as part of our economic development normally. But it really, both of those things and many others are very, very critical to our economic development and prosperity. And as we did discuss earlier at the transportation meeting, if the prosperity of all along that rail line and their ability to develop housing, affordable housing all along that rail line are really important, and we are being held at a great disadvantage by not being able to participate in that. And I would like to thank Representative Lubau for her tireless efforts on a large board that, yeah, she's the only one representing us. So we need to really try to, I think, Councilman Santos had a good idea that we should have a special meeting and we should have them come explain to us why we're at the end of the line and we still don't get anything until long after I will be dead. So, thank you.
Okay. City Manager, any comments?
Mayor, Council, we do have some comments tonight. I think Eugene and I are going to tag team this in my remarks, so we can combine them both. But the first thing I'd like to ask Council is, so you saw the item today, which was a CDBG DR grant for the Button Rock area. We have also been working on another DR grant, roughly $850,000 that we've been waiting on. We were hoping to get it on the meeting tonight because there is a sense of urgency, but it didn't come in until late Saturday, around Saturday, and so our staff has been ready for a few meetings, but obviously we have to wait on the contract to come from the state. So we're ready to bring it forward. We really need to bring it at the next meeting, which is a study session. So we would like to ask that Council would suspend the rules and create a regular session so you can vote on that item.
All right.
Moved.
All right, we've got a motion. It's been seconded. Let's vote on that. Yeah, that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent.
Okay. The second item that I want to talk to Council about, and this is the item that we will tag team. So as the Council may know, you received an email from Municipal Court Judge Diana Vandehey, indicating that she has decided to retire, and the last day will be Friday, May 27th. As a result of that, there is a process that we're going to have to go through that's established via the city charter, and there's some issues that we're going to need to talk about. And so I'm going to ask Eugene to go over the process in general, and then lay out some of the items that we're going to be bringing forward to Council for you all to consider in the very near future. Because again, when you look at the timing, May seem a long time away, but actually with everything that's involved, we're going to need to engage council very quickly in that process. Eugene?
Thank you, Harold. Eugene May, City Attorney. So the municipal charter does lay out the process for appointing a municipal judge, and Longmont has not done that in 30 years. So let's take a look at the process. It's actually pretty detailed. It starts off with council appointing an ad hoc judicial committee, and that judicial committee has 3 members. One is a judge from the 20th Judicial District, one is an attorney practicing in Longmont, and the third is a citizen residing in Longmont. My office has some contacts at the 20th Judicial District. I think we can make that contact with the chief judge and see who she would like to appoint. Harold will address some issues regarding the other 2 members, the attorney and the citizen. So once council appoints that committee, they convene, they promulgate the rules, and they conduct the interview process. They review the applications, they conduct interviews, and then they distill their findings down to a list of 3 candidates in order of preference to council. And then council can choose what sort of process they would like for evaluating those 3 candidates, and then they appoint a new municipal judge. The qualifications for a judge are pretty minimal. You have to be a licensed member of the Colorado Bar in good standing. Don't want to steal Harold's thunder, but council would be looking at, setting what kind of qualifications and qualities in a judge that you would like to have. The charter also has provisions regarding interim judge, should that be necessary. We were meeting as a staff earlier today, just kind of thumbnailing the timelines, and it's pretty tight to try to get this done by the end of May. And as you also know, the judge serves as the liquor authority, so there's a number of issues and timing that we need to look at. If there's a vacancy in the office of municipal judge, the charter provides that the council appoints an interim judge to fill that vacancy until the reappointment is made. So those are the basics of the procedure laid out in the charter, and I'll turn it back to Harold to raise some other issues.
So issues, options, as you all have to consider to look at this. And so I think the one thing that I want to say is ultimately this is the council's process. And so we are going to be bringing some items to you to get your direction on in terms of how we move forward with this process. The first thing that we found when we started looking at this is there's not a job description for the municipal court judge. So obviously in a posting you like to have some type of job description that talks about what the duties and responsibilities are. And so Joanne's going to work on getting job descriptions from other communities and provide those to you all for your review. However, when we send you the packet out for this, there are going to be some very specific points where we're going to need council direction. And just to name a few, it says what you need is somebody who's licensed in good standing in the Colorado Bar. So things that we're going to be asking you is length of service. Is there something that you want in that? So we're going to lay some questions out and ask for input so Joanne can assist you all in putting that together. The other thing that we're going to want to talk about with you all, as Eugene mentioned, the municipal court judge also serves as a liquor authority. And that is not a responsibility that has come historically with the municipal court judge. That is something that council added at some point in the past. We used to have a board, and the piece in that's really going to be important because of the timing issues is what do we need to do to potentially look at some type of interim liquor authority based on the timing of this issue. So that'll be one question that we're going to talk to you about. And then overall is just to say, how does council want to proceed and look at this issue in general, because it is a distinctly different piece of the obligations that the judge has in place that the council directed years ago. The other thing that we're going to talk to you about, and we're just going to give you a lot of options to try to move through this. I just want to preview it so you know what's coming, is how are you going to appoint the nominating board? specifically for the two position of the layperson and the practicing attorney in Longmont. And so Valerie's putting that together now to give you some options as how you want to consider that. As Eugene indicated earlier, there's also the need to potentially look at an interim municipal court judge based on timing and how long it takes us to move through this. So those are some of the things that we're going to be bringing to council and looking for your guidance in terms of how you want to move forward. The other thing I would like to point out is, based on the timing and getting everyone together, we are going to do our best to get it on the packet next Tuesday. The reality is this may have to be a supplement that we add to that agenda. Because of the timing issues, we really need to hit the meeting on the 26th. But I wanted to let you know this very well may be a supplement that comes out later in the week. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this point.
A question, I mean, if we had to have an interim liquor license authority, could we maybe consider like assigning Don as that position for a short period of time, or is that something for the clerk's office? Or?
That's a pretty specific question. I think we would have to look into that.
Okay.
Because the way that's set up via ordinance, there's processes that actually she has to take care of that I think would potentially create a conflict.
Okay.
So that's just my answer off the,
okay.
On the fly, but I think we could look at it, but I think there would potentially be some issues with the way that the ordinance is structured. But we will bring you a lot of options.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Combs. Just my thoughts, since we're short on time. Just one, I think that we should mimic what the state requires of county and district court judges, which would be, I don't think it's enough that someone just has a law degree and be a lawyer in good standing. I think, A, they need to be a practicing attorney for at least 5 years. Yeah. I think that we should give preference to those people. We don't want a transactional attorney. We need an attorney that's in court, whether it be domestic relations, criminal, whatever, but has court experience. And so focusing on court-type caseloads. And I think that the process we should follow is, you already nailed it. You talk to Judge Birkencotter, the chief judge over in Boulder, and let her determine which judge, through volunteers or whatever process she wants to use, to serve on the committee. I think this week, each of us should be thinking about attorneys that have been serving for 5 years and who have court experience, that we could each maybe pick a name and come and offer that next week, as well as pick one person in the community that we think would do a good job, and actually, instead of waiting for staff, be a little proactive and give them a list of the people that we think, and spend a few minutes talking about that next week. That's what I think we should do.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. So back to the liquor license authority. Is there any reason to not reform that board and have it reviewed by a board of appointees?
So treating it more like a typical board or commission
with the right qualifications and stuff.
So I think that's obviously to the discretion of council as to how you want to treat that. And again, we can bring you back more specifics to this, but what I have heard is that the efficiency and effectiveness of that became cumbersome, and there was some cost associated with it. But honestly, what we were going to do is to say, A, do you want to talk about this? B, if you do, here's these options. One could be a board, one could be a panel, one could be a hearing officer, or it could be the municipal judge. It could be all of these different options. And so, again, not knowing where council wanted to be on this, we're just going to bring those up and let you all consider those. So,
all right, thanks.
Councilmember Peck.
Actually, I agree, and this is very startling for me, with Councilman Bagley.
I think Brian Bagley gives sage advice.
That we should actually have an interim judge appointed by, who did you mention, the one in Boulder?
Oh, Judge Birkencotter is the chief judge.
I think that would be a good idea if she appointed an interim judge.
I didn't think that's
So,
what you.
Idea, but
Yeah.
If she could, that'd be great.
So, and I'll let Eugene speak to this. Under the ordinance, the council has to, so there's two options for appointing an interim judge. One is if the judge is going to be gone on vacation or something, the judge can appoint the interim position, but in the event of a vacancy, the council actually has to appoint the interim judge. Eugene, is that correct?
Yeah.
So if council wants us to put something on the agenda, so we've held your packets because we were waiting on direction to change it to a regular meeting for the DR piece. If council wants to put this as an item to briefly discuss next week in advance of the following week discussion, we can do that as a discussion item for next week.
Okay, well, whatever's going to speed up the process is probably what we need to do.
Okay.
And I kind of agree with Brian's suggestions that maybe we need to be a little bit proactive, and if we have, I like the idea of having the judge, select somebody to serve on the panel, and then we can all come up with potentially names to throw into a hat and discuss. Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So next week when we discuss this, it's usually I like that idea of bringing names. Of course, we can all talk to people who are practicing attorneys. We have a process for boards and commissions, perhaps an expedient one where we put it out. Unfortunately, we need to do this rather quickly.
Advertise it now.
I would start advertising it now. Exactly. An attorney, but for the panel.
Yeah.
For the panel, that we need an attorney and we need a citizen of Longmont, and perhaps that could be done within the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Blast it in any Facebook, Twitter, Times Call, you name it, and have that in to us relatively quickly, so we can interview another interview for boards and commissions. But it's a vital one to the structure of the city of Longmont. The other stuff, as far as whether the liquor authority needs to remain with the municipal judge, which I've always felt it shouldn't be. However, we'll have that discussion. But if we need to appoint a judge, again, what do we need to do? What's that process? That we would get recommendations from Judge Birkenhead or Birkengott or whoever, Judge Burke, something or other. Sorry. Hopefully I'm never in front of that judge. Hopefully I'm never in front of that judge. But however, we get recommendations for us to appoint relatively quickly when Judge Van de Hey finally retires. So again, I'm looking forward to that material.
So what I will say to council is we will put this item on for discussion,
Okay.
and we may have some broad bullet points.
Okay.
The information's not going to be as vetted as we would have if we had waited some time, so it may be more of a conversation between us.
Okay.
I just want, we'll do our best, but I wanted you to know it's going to be not as complete, but we were going to still work on the complete information to then come back the following meeting to have some more technical conversations. But again, this is your process, and so we're actually here to help you all with your process.
All right. Councilmember Christensen?
Yeah, I think we all want to do everything we can to expedite this. I do think that a starting ground is for qualifications for the judge are the things that Councilman Bagley talked about. He's obviously the most qualified on the city council to figure out what legal qualifications somebody had. And I think combined with suggestions from City Attorney May and his team, and also perhaps Chief Butler would perhaps be a good person to ask for suggestions, because he has a great deal of dealings with the court, obviously. So that would be my suggestion, is to start building up a list of qualifications so we can get along with your suggestion to look for what other people in different municipalities are getting for a resume for a court judge.
So I have a question. The requirement for the citizen that sits on the panel, does that citizen need to be a citizen of Longmont? Okay. Thank you. All right. Well,
No
thank
further
you.
comments, Mayor, Council.
All right. Any further comments?
Wise man, watch this.
No more comments, Mayor.
Wise man.
All right. This meeting is adjourned.